guys, it's Adrian. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to bring you a review for The School for Good and Evil by Sonan Chinani. I'm gonna do a spoiler-free part and then I'm gonna do a little bit more of a spoilery part because I have some more things that I want to talk about that have spoilers in it. So I will let you know when I'm going to go into spoilery discussion. Even though this book wasn't on my March TBR, I decided to read this book because Julie from Pages and Pens is doing it with her book club, JavaAndLibrarians. I'll leave all the links down there. And they have a live show going up this coming Saturday. I was planning on waiting until after that live show to film my review, but I feel like if I don't talk about it now, I might forget about the things that I felt. This is about a girl named Agatha and a girl named Sophie. And Sophie believes that she's going to the school for good because she's beautiful and she tries to do these kind deeds, tries being the emphasis. And Agatha thinks that she's evil because she feels that she's ugly and she's a loner and she lives in a graveyard. She's convinced that if she should ever go to the school for good and evil, Agatha would end up in the school for evil and Sophie would end up in the school for good. That is not what happens. So the story follows their journeys when they get dropped into, for their opinions, the opposite school. This is a middle grade book. Generally, I don't read middle grade books. I will talk about how I feel about that in a minute, but for a middle grade book, I enjoyed it. I don't really know if I would consider it a middle grade book, but this was one of the only middle grade books that I did like. As far as the plot goes, I did enjoy this story. I thought it was fantastically imagined and beautifully crafted and just wonderful. I thought that it was a pleasure to read, and I think I read this in like 2 days. It was really good. The writing sometimes for me was confusing. I've tried to go back through the book and figure out what exactly it is that confused me, and I can't. There were just a few moments in the book that I couldn't follow, or it just seemed like a weird transition. I don't really know what it was. It wasn't enough for me to say this book was terribly written because it was not terribly written. It was well written, it was just sometimes confusing and I don't know why. The characters, Sophie and Agatha, I thought they were so well done and so thought out for the most part. And Sophie is kind of like you love to hate her. Like, she's just naive and she makes stupid decisions, and Agatha is like this sweet little girl. You just want to hug her. Like, she needs a hug. She needs somebody to tell her that she's really good. Both of these go through a great amount of self-discovery, and I think that is really well done, especially for a middle grade book. So that I applaud. The other characters, the side characters, were also really great. I don't know that they had incredible arcs, but I did enjoy them and they did help push the story forward, and I didn't feel like they were just pawns. They were part of the story, which is what I've been reading a lot lately in these books that I've been reading this past month. A lot of the characters that I've been reading, side characters, are mostly pawns, and these were not, and I really appreciated that. As great and as lovely as I thought this book was, I do have some serious beef with it, and I can't talk about it too much without it being spoiler free. So I'm just gonna say I don't think this was a middle grade book. I think that some of the themes that the author was trying to get through didn't come over well for a middle grade audience, and I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for that. I'm not saying I didn't like the book. I did like it. As a 30-year-old adult who was very confident in who I am as a person and my place in society and my emotional stability, I loved this book. For a 12 or 13-year-old preteen, I have some serious issues. My biggest issue with this book being a middle grade is that it sends out mixed signals. For a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old girl or boy who's gonna read this book who is struggling with their identity, because that's what teenagers and preteens do, I feel like this book sends mixed signals. So I'm gonna talk about those issues, but this will be the spoilery part of this book discussion. So if you have not read the book, go read it. Please don't think that I'm saying this is a bad book. It's just, in my opinion, not a book for a 12 or 13-year-old, but for an adult, it is fantastic. So go read the book, come back, and then we can talk about the issues, because I really want to know if any of you feel the same way. For those of you who have read the book, I want to talk to you about the few issues that I found with it being a middle grade book, and I'd like to discuss it with you, because I do recognize that I am reading this book as a mom and reading this book thinking, is this something that I would want my 11, 12, 13-year-old daughter reading, because this is middle grade, it's not young adult. I think this book would have been fantastic as a young adult book. For middle grade, I don't think so, because to me it sends out the wrong signals. So let's get started and talk about them. The first one is that the author really tried to make the point of you don't have to be beautiful to be good, and being bad doesn't necessarily mean you're ugly. She pulled this out really well, especially for Agatha, who had a moment with her teacher and she realized that she was indeed good and she was indeed beautiful in her own way. She was her. I thought that part of the book and that part of the theme was really well done, but I think the theme in itself altogether really failed. It really failed miserably. It sent out so many mixed signals, because Agatha has this moment where, like I said, she looks in the mirror and she realizes she's smiling, and the smile on her face and her self-esteem being boosted has made her feel more beautiful and look more beautiful. But then you have, at the end, at this tournament, she comes in this beautiful ball gown, and so everybody turns their eyes and looks at her and look at how beautiful she is. So they didn't leave her as just being this ordinary girl. They made her look very beautiful in the end. So I kind of felt like, I know I'm being nitpicky, but that got lost. Like, she doesn't have to be beautiful, so don't make her beautiful. And then at the very end of the book, when Sophie tricks Agatha, by the way, when Sophie asked Agatha to dance and then turned everybody against her, I wanted to scream. I was so angry, but that's not the point. When Sophie tricks the good people into doing something bad, they all turn ugly. And then again, when they're fighting, they turn good again, and then turn ugly again, and they turn beautiful again, and then turn ugly again, and then they're all confused. And so I feel like because of that, you kind of lose the theme of inner beauty. Sophie really made this point difficult to bring home, because when she wanted to be in the good school, when she wanted people to notice her, she started dressing like a 20-year-old girl going out to the club, and she's supposed to be like, what, 12, 13 maybe? And all of these boys, these 12, 13-year-old boys maybe, are lusting after this 12, 13-year-old girl. I know I'm a mom, and I know I'm a little ridiculous because I'm a mom, but I would not want my 11, 12, 13-year-old girl dressing like a hooker. I'm sorry. It's just not... No, I wouldn't want any boy, no matter what age, lusting after my 11, 12, 13-year-old girl. She's still a kid. But the reason that I bring this up is because we're still trying to say you don't have to be beautiful to be good. And Sophie dresses sexy and she gets attention for it that she wanted, and people start to think she's good. So again, it's just mixed signals, and I feel like we should be encouraging our 12, 13-year-old kids to be more self-secure, and I feel like this just makes things more confusing. And the last thing that I really want to talk about is Agatha and Sophie's sexuality. I'm curious to the live show that's coming up. It's already done by the time this video goes up, but I don't know if Agatha is a lesbian, if she's bisexual, or if she's just confused. And being 32, I can see these things coming, but if 11 or 12 or 13-year-old boy or girl is reading this, it's confusing. So I feel like if you're going to have a lesbian character or a bisexual character or even a confused character, you need to write that, because like I said, teenagers struggle with who they are, and a lot of preteens are struggling with their sexuality. So having a book that just leaves you like, wait, I'm confused, what is she now, I think would hit a teenager a little harder, because they already are trying to find out who they are. So if you have a lesbian character, write her as lesbian. If you have a bisexual character, write her as bisexual. If you have a confused character, which totally happens with this age, write her as being confused. In the beginning of the book, especially when she had the wish fish, she was going through all these thoughts in her head, and one of the thoughts was boys, girls. So that kind of gave me a clue, maybe she's lesbian or she's confused. Later she decides that she's got a crush on Tedros, her prince, that's her prince. So she goes for boys. Okay. And then at the end, she kisses Sophie. So then I was confused again. Was this a friendship kiss? And then in the same moment, I was confused about Sophie because the whole time she's only concerned about boys and what boys think of her. And then at the end of the book, she says, I love you, and she kisses Agatha. So that made me confused about her. Was she really a lesbian this whole time? Or did she fall in love with Agatha? Is she struggling? I just feel like when you have a character who is sexually oriented one way or the other, or even confused, you need to write them that way for a younger audience because it will only leave them more confused. I know I'm being really nitpicky with all these things, but like I said, I am reading this from a mother's perspective. When I started this book, I thought, oh, this could be a really great book for my 8-year-old daughter. Like, maybe we can read this together because it's not super scary, there's no monsters in it. Even the evil characters in the book have redeemable qualities. You like them. So I thought this could be a wonderful book to read together with my daughter. And then I kept reading and I just kept going, no, I can't read this with her, and nor will I let her read this book when she's 10 or 11 or 12 or 13. She really needs to be more self-aware of who she is and to be secure in her place in society and how she feels about herself and how she feels amongst her friends and how she feels about life. And I don't feel like this book would help her. I was hoping as the book went along that this book would help her discover who she is. And I think that just is it that totally failed, and it would just make her more confused about so many things. And so as a mom, I say this book not until she's a little older, until she's a little more secure in who she is as a person. All that to say, as an adult, reading this book as an adult, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was fantastic. As a middle grade book, if I had to rate this as a middle grade book, reading it as an adult, rating it for my children, I would probably give this 2 stars. So I kind of have a double star rating, and this has never happened. For me, for my own reading pleasure, I gave this a 4 stars. But if anybody were to ask me for middle grade recommendations, I probably wouldn't recommend this one for middle grade. Or I would say to parents, read the book first before you allow your child to read it. Make sure that it's okay for them, that you don't think that it would really affect their psychological development. I am really interested in reading the 2nd and 3rd book. I have them on my wish list. I do plan on ordering them, and I will read them because I did like the book. I just wanted to share with you a few of my thoughts. If you've read the book, let me know down below if what I'm saying is completely and utter nonsense, because I'm up for that. You know, I don't hate me for it, but if you think that I'm completely wrong, let me know, because maybe I am just being too harsh on this book. If you agree or you have other issues with the book, let me know in the comments down below too, because I really like to discuss this book with you. I'm really looking forward to the live show. Thank you, Julie, for letting me know about this, because I am really excited, and I am excited to read their next book because I feel like this book club is just a lot of fun. And I needed me a book club, and I found one. So can't wait to find out what the book for April is. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this book review. If you have any thoughts, like I said, leave them down in the comments below, because I'd love to talk to you about them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you have not already, I'd love it if you subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.